Welcome, travelers. Always good to have you back in the LZ, and today I want to talk about a subject that I honestly don't think I've seen a whole lot of discussion on in regards to No Man's Sky, especially in the No Man's Sky content creator sphere of things. And that subject is the Nintendo Switch in relation to No Man's Sky. Now, about half of you just sort of rolled your eyes and sort of scoffed at the idea, and the other half of you sort of perked up in interest. And honestly, there's a reason for that. And honestly, if there were something as niche as No Man's Sky, it would probably be the Nintendo Switch, in my opinion. So today, I'm going to touch on a few key points in our conversation. The possibility of No Man's Sky on the Nintendo Switch, the benefits of a Nintendo Switch and Hello Games partnership, and of course, towards the end of the video, the big elephant in the room: hardware limitations and performance of No Man's Sky on a Nintendo Switch. Before we get going, earlier I asked for your tweets on your feelings about No Man's Sky on the Nintendo Switch, and I got some pretty interesting responses that I want to show on screen here over the last couple of days. And honestly, those comments were a little more divisive than I thought they would be, ranging from "it just wouldn't happen for reasons" all the way to "I am excited to play No Man's Sky on the pooper." And do feel free to comment below. What are your thoughts on No Man's Sky for Nintendo Switch? Do you own a Switch? Do you like your Nintendo Switch? If you do, would love to see your comments and interact in the chat below. And of course, consider joining and supporting the LZ if it's a place that you like to hang out and you enjoy the content here. It's a brand new button and functionality that appeared just below the video there to help out content creators, and I do enjoy that. And welcome it with open arms, of course. A man has to eat. But on to the subject at hand, the possibility of No Man's Sky on the Nintendo Switch. And honestly, I think it's more likely than you might think it is. While not quite as big as the overall worldwide sales as its sort of indirect competition in Xbox and PlayStation 4, the Nintendo Switch already has a pretty good install base. As a matter of fact, Nintendo recently closed their fiscal year at sales of over 35 million units, and it just got done overtaking the PlayStation 4's lifetime sales in Japan. And we know our friends across the water do enjoy No Man's Sky, particularly in China. And while I've criticized Nintendo, and particularly the Nintendo Switch before, for its sort of ultra focus on first-party titles and lack of third-party, it's definitely done a little bit better of a job than the Nintendo Wii U did, which was, in my opinion, an utter disaster. But you have to give Nintendo one thing: they have a seal of quality for a reason, and it's really hard to argue that anything that Nintendo puts out for their first-party titles are almost always a hit. We can talk all day about first-party exclusives between Xbox and PlayStation 4, but if we're being honest and we're being objective, Nintendo's intellectual properties and those qualities of the games that they put out for those properties are honestly second to none. So while Nintendo could always use more third-party support, they do a great job of bringing in the indies, and Hello Games is no exception to that rule. They don't lie outside of that. I could absolutely see Sean Murray looking at the Nintendo Switch as a viable possibility for No Man's Sky. Now, I know some of your toes are curling in anxiousness and disagreement, and fair enough, I can understand why that would be. I'm going to get to your concerns here in a moment in the video, trust me. And of course, another possibility is the new rumored Switch revision, or even the brand new possibility of a next-gen hardware for a new Nintendo Switch or a Switch successor that we don't know about yet. The war drums are already beating for a next generation, and new consoles for the bigger boys, the Xbox and the PlayStation 4, are already on the 2020 horizon. And Nintendo has always generally been within that window as well. I don't see Nintendo sort of missing an opportunity to sort of match that offering. And even though their consoles generally, at least lately, aren't as powerful as those other consoles, it certainly doesn't come with a lesser offering. Now let's talk benefits of No Man's Sky on the Nintendo Switch. I own a Nintendo Switch. I kind of begrudgingly got it. The main selling point for me is obviously Metroid, right? When they announced Metroid for the Nintendo Switch, I was all in. My favorite Nintendo intellectual property of all time. Of course, I'm a little upset now that they sort of scrapped the original Metroid Prime 4 idea, but I'm super happy that they gave it back to the people that deserved it, honestly, and who would handle it better, even though they had to start from scratch in a way. But while it's not perfect, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is an excellent game that I didn't want to end. I absolutely hated the Super Mario Galaxy games, and so I was super happy to see Mario Odyssey return to a better, more appreciative form factor that, you know, you've got games like Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine. I digress, but it's a scrappy little console that I've enjoyed. I enjoy the form factor, I enjoy the concept, I enjoy that I can take it anywhere. My children absolutely love it, and I'm honestly surprised at its versatility, right? It comes with a lot of super cool applications that if anybody could find a way to sort of take advantage of that versatility, it is Nintendo, and by extension, Hello Games could certainly use that too, particularly the motion controls to complement things like the new VR functionalities that are being implemented in No Man's Sky Beyond. And even though Nintendo doesn't exactly have a VR offering, so to speak, at least not as generally understood like PSVR, for instance, you could still absolutely utilize the functionality that we saw in the No Man's Sky Beyond VR trailer. Another benefit of the Nintendo Switch is the cross-play functionality. Nobody has been more stubborn in the last couple of generations on even just some of the basic shit. YouTube monetization problems and intellectual overprotection of their properties, and it's just weird to see somebody like Nintendo sort of leading the way in the cross-play space and jumping into bed with folks like Microsoft to create a substantial cross-play effort, right? And so I already think, and I already have a suspicion that Sean Murray is looking at cross-play functionality already, and it may even arrive as part of Beyond, and so I'm kind of interested in that. I don't think Sean Murray has ever ruled that out, but I think that it would be certainly beneficial, and it would just be one more console that could participate in the cross-play space, even if Sony sort of begrudgingly jumped in after the internet nuked them from every direction for being sort of the new stubborn and uncooperative jerks when it came to that big conversation in crossplay. And games like Fortnite, Minecraft, and Rocket League are already doing such a great job at crossplay with other platforms. This is absolutely something that Sean Murray can take advantage of. And of course, let's just say this as a benefit, right? No Man's Sky on a plane, in the office, on the shitter. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Who would not want to take No Man's Sky on the go? So let's start to close the video up. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room, and anytime I've seen discourse surrounding No Man's Sky on the Nintendo Switch, the concern has been around hardware performance and how well No Man's Sky would perform on the Nintendo Switch. It's not a secret. It's plain to see that Nintendo Switch is not exactly the strongest console on the market. I think we can all agree on that. I mean, with exception with the few Nintendo fanboys on my Twitter feed, sure. But to me, that's not a reason to say that No Man's Sky shouldn't or wouldn't or couldn't show up on the Nintendo Switch. We're already seeing big third-party games like Mortal Kombat, games like Doom, Skyrim. So it's not exactly an impossibility to port No Man's Sky to the Switch. That comment, of course, comes with a gigantic asterisk. Some of the games that I just mentioned came with a pretty significant, I don't know if I want to call it a downgrade even, because that would do the word injustice. Those games didn't exactly look the greatest. And of course, games like Doom, which was pioneered to and conceptualized to run at 60 frames per second, it doesn't really, right? So with that point aside, and of course that really couldn't, it really doesn't need to be the case with No Man's Sky. They could easily easily downgrade the graphics, remove some of the extra bells and whistles that they've added over time, right? They don't need the dynamic clouds. They don't need the new water shaders. They don't need the dynamic lighting. There are easily things that they can cut out of No Man's Sky that they could pare down to make this work on the Nintendo Switch. Obviously, the big point of discussion when it comes to performance is the procedural generation, right? I mean, if you're watching this video, it is probably a big chance that you are not new to the No Man's Sky community, or it's an even bigger chance that you're not new to No Man's Sky and you might have been here since day one. Year one with No Man's Sky was a year of sort of just a perpetual, gradual improvement of the pop-in in the game, right? And now that stuff is almost completely gone. It would probably end up rearing its ugly head and coming back worse than ever on the Nintendo Switch, but I think there's a lot of people that would accept that. Also, I wouldn't rule out the idea that Hello Games would do the effort to completely just reimagine or redesign the game artistically to make it work on the Nintendo Switch. It wouldn't be the first game to have done such a thing, where it looked completely different on the Nintendo Switch or any other platform than it did from the original platforms it launched on. And here's the thing about the Nintendo Switch and the install base that it currently has. Switch owners generally aren't, they're not too concerned with graphical prowess, right? But playability is everything to those folks. There's a reason why Nintendo intellectual property and all of those amazing brands that they have are so successful, because they're so gosh darn fun. So to say that No Man's Sky has to be a looker on a particular console, it just doesn't work for the Nintendo Switch, right? The game doesn't have to be some graphical powerhouse in order for it to work. And I mentioned this earlier, but the potential for a new Switch hardware for the next generation could make No Man's Sky performance in that discussion a non-issue. So there's my thoughts about No Man's Sky on the Nintendo Switch. I like my little Nintendo Switch. I think it's a scrappy little console. I think I've gotten a whole lot of joy out of it. I cannot wait for Metroid Prime. I cannot wait for that. I can't stress that enough. I freaking love Metroid. But comment below, do you own a Nintendo Switch? Do you like it? And what are your thoughts about No Man's Sky arriving on the Nintendo Switch if it were? Do you think it's possible? And would you pick up the game if it did? Even if it came with some shortcomings. Would love to read your comments and interact, of course. And if you like today's video and all of our other videos here in the LZ, please like, and that would certainly help here in the channel. Subscribe, click the bell, etc., and consider joining and supporting the LZ. Whatever support I can get to help keep this train moving is certainly appreciated. Everybody, good to see you again, and do come back to the LZ for the next video. See you later.